What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Gregway. Of course, every Wednesday and Friday I take one of your comments on these YouTube videos, which I write on this note card in Chicken Scratch, or one of your comments from Twitter at GameOverGreggy, and I answer and talk to you about it. This one comes from one of my favorites, Radio PlayStation. On Twitter, you should follow them. They are at It's Radio PS. Radio PlayStation. They're a podcast and a whole bunch of stuff. They're great. I have T-shirts. I should have worn. Damn, I should have worn a Radio PlayStation T-shirt for this. Whatever. Radio PlayStation asks, why do you prefer DC over Marvel? Is it just what you grew up with? This is a good question. Everybody knows I'm a DC Comics fanboy. I got Superboy and me back here. I got a thing up here from DC Universe Online. Nick is reading his phone, so I hope those were when I was pointing at them that they were framed. Nah, Nick says they weren't. No big deal. Huge DC Comics fan. Everybody knows that. I wear Superman shirts all the time. I talk about Superboy. I'm addicted to DC Universe Online. But the other day over on IGN, my day job, I put up this video here with me and Chris Daniels talking about Marvel vs. DC, right? And he's a big Marvel fan, I'm a big DC fan. We talked a little bit about it. But why my dedication to DC comes around, it is something I grew up with in a way. Like I grew up reading both, right? I grew up reading Superman books and of course Spider-Man books. And I was in love with both of them for a long time. It's one of those things for me growing up. Superman really didn't get interesting until the Death and Return saga began. Then I thought that was like totally awesome, right? That was really cool. It introduced my favorite comic book character of all time, Superboy, Con-El. I mean, as a youngster, of course, I think I was drawn to the Super Friends and stuff like that. I like them more. I definitely, I think like I've talked about this before. I definitely think a lot of subconscious stuff has been based on my love of Superman with the glasses and the hair and the being a journalist for a while. Again, not being in shape, but Superman never worked out, so whatever. But eventually it came to a point where the X-Men never really hooked me, right? They were too fantasy based for what they were doing, I thought at the time. And I'm talking about like the big Jim Lee era and like the blue Cyclops stuff. I loved the cartoon for some reason, but the comics never hooked me. And so my Marvel drug was Spider-Man, and I was with Spider-Man forever and ever and ever, and then I was with Superman, and mainly those were the big two as far as from the big two companies, right? Batman was too dark for me. I didn't like him that much growing up. Like Robin eventually when they introduced Tim Drake, getting off path. So everything's going fine. I'm enjoying all these different books, and then the Clone Saga happened for Spider-Man. You remember this, where in the old days of the Spider-Man comic, he had been cloned, and they thought that clone was dead, but then in the Clone Saga, it turns out he wasn't dead, and there's this other Peter Parker, and they go through all these tests, and and it goes on forever, I remember. Just totally long, totally annoying, and then the kicker was, spoilers for a comic from like 1992, the Spider-Man I had been reading for years and years and loving was actually the clone, and that the clone they had gotten rid of years and years and years ago was actually Spider-Man. And so, or the original Peter Parker. And so that happens this time around in the Clone Saga. Oh my God, I'm not Spider-Man, I'm the clone. And the Spider-Man / clone, Ben Reilly, of course, that I had loved forever, leaves Mary Jane, his wife, who's like, oh, I gotta go start a new life and do all this stuff, and like, you can be It was like so offensive to me as a reader, the way they just balled up that relationship and that universe and like what was happening in the story. And I'm sure it's been years since I read the Clone Saga, so just stick with me if I'm making any mistakes. Balled it up and threw it all away, that I was like, fuck this, man, I'm out. Like, I will not, like, we always talk about it, right? Colin and I, whether we're talking about video games, movies, or whatever, like, vote with your wallet, right? And I was like, I have to send you the clear, and like, my dad's wallet at the time, by the way, thanks for buying me hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of comics over my lifetime. But I was like, I can't support this. Like, I don't like this decision. And the only way you can really stress that, other than a letter, which I'm sure I sent, was like, I'm not gonna buy this book anymore. So cold turkey, stopped reading Spider-Man. And that was it. Once that happened, I only had DC in my life, right? Like, it was like DC or bust. I'm reading Grant Morrison's JLA run and all these different things, and you find Batman through that and find, I really fell in love with Green Lantern, right? Like, I was talking about this too, right? Like, I'm not a big space fan. Like, when you start introducing aliens and all these crazy things, I start to lose touch with the reality of Earth I like. But when Hal Jordan went crazy and killed all the Green Lanterns, and then Kyle Rayner was the only Green Lantern, that was such, and this is also, of course, spun out from Death and Return of Superman. That happens, it was awesome. Number one, I thought of a story. Number two, like, it's intimidating to try to be a comic book fan, right? You come in and there's years and years and years of history and stories you haven't read, and you can't really jump in, which is why they just rebooted everything, right? But with Kyle Rayner, I was there from the beginning. I was there when Hal went crazy, and then I was able to pick up Green Lantern issue whatever and get Kyle Rayner's run, right, and really like him. Probably the same reason I love Superboy so much, right, is the fact that when Connell debuted in The Death and Return of Superman, he was a new character, and he was my age-ish, like, you know what I mean, I was probably like 12 or whatever, I don't even know. But I was young, and all of a sudden there was this young Superman that I could connect with. It's like, yeah, totally, that's what you're on board for. So I love Tim Drake, right? Tim Drake's my favorite Robin, right, because his career kind of started when I was still into comics, but not, it's something you could have, right? That's the beauty of introducing new characters in new series. It's something for a fan who is new to the genre or to the whatever to get in there and actually get his feet wet. So years and years later, I carried a burning grudge against Marvel for a long time about the Spider-Man Clone Saga, and totally deprived myself of some amazing stories. I've doubled back for sure. Nowadays, I do still buy. I buy a lot of DC stuff, a lot of Image stuff. I buy way too much Image stuff, and then here and there on Marvel. I think some of their digital books are a little too expensive for my taste, but that's beside the point. I'm still buying them. I'm still into it. Love Miles Morales and all that stuff. So that is why I love DC Comics more than any other comic company in the world. That's how a Gregway works. Thank you again for your question. Radio PlayStation. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what kind of conversation you'd like to have with me by leaving it in the topics or tweeting at me. I don't care. And then make sure you keep coming back Wednesday and Friday to see me sway on the Gregway. Is that swaying, Nick? Did you like that one?
Terrible.
That's a good one.
Every time.
Ah.